there's something amazing to be said for those that can know when to quit at the right time, or whether it's just a little dip or a lull. It's crucial that we know this, and some of the best people know when to quit and when it's the right thing. Let's dive in now and make sure we know whether it's a dip or whether it's time to quit. So we've all been in that position before, you know, the new flame, the new romance, the going on the dates, the fun, the excitement, the anticipation. Everything is just, you know, exciting, right? We've all been there. Some people more than others. But ultimately, everything's fun. We talk about relationships as it has the honeymoon period. You know, people get married in the honeymoon period, and then, you know, some people like to talk about how the relationship seems to die off a little bit, or there's the stories about the 7-year itch, or the romance in the bedroom isn't what it used to be over time, and the romance has dropped and blah, 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 right? So we've all been in those situations personally, and we know what it's like when we relate that to something like a relationship that we've had in the past, or that we might be having now. But when we think about it, it's exactly the same as our business or our career. We no doubt finish university, we're eager, we're super keen, we're anticipating what's going to happen. You know, we might get some butterflies in the stomach, you know, because a bit of nervous energy into your first day, and, you know, we learn new things, we go to different courses, we upskill, and, you know, there's a lot of this excitement and amazement and happiness and fun that happens in that early period. But in your career, as with past relationships, for instance, it gets to a point sometimes where it might not be as fun and as exciting. It might start to get a little bit dull, a little bit boring. Maybe it's not that it's boring and not fun, but it's just hard. It's different. Something has changed, things have changed, and maybe it's harder for us to be excited and fun. And again, we've all had this in different, hopefully it's a past role or past employment, and it's not where you're at right now. But ultimately, we have to know that's a dip. And when we stop and think about a dip, I mean, a great way of looking at this, Seth Godin, amazing man, and I was very grateful, probably 7 years ago now, to actually have lunch with him and 3 others in Sydney for a couple of hours, and just amazing man, and powerful day that day alone. But look, the guy's really smart, and he talks and frames up the dip. And when we stop and think about how a dip is always going to come. Think of a roller coaster. We're going to have the highs and the lows. In any relationship, you're going to have different tests of, challenging times, right? Let's not go into all the reasons or how certain things can happen in relationships. But it's the same as careers and business opportunities. We ultimately get ourselves in a time period where there's going to be a lull. There's going to be a dip. But Seth really gets into the understanding and the setup of the fact that a lot of the time, it's the ability of successful business owners and successful people in careers to actually be able to identify the dip and be able to know early on, is it just a dip and it's going to sort of bounce back as such? Or is it time to quit? So when we stop and think about a roller coaster, right? If you're in the front carriage, you get the thrill, you go down and you get into that dip, but you can see what's ahead. You can see that just around this next corner, it's going to rip you up out of the seat and round the corner and back again and up and down. And you can see that. You know it's there. But when it comes to your career or your workplace or your business or the industry or the economy, all of these different factors mean that we're not always in total control. We can't see the track right in front of us. we aren't always guaranteed that, in another half a second, we're on the way back up the part of the roller coaster, right? And so we have to understand that in our business and the way in which we approach our careers and professionally, we might not be perfectly able to see exactly what's around the corner or the next part of the roller coaster journey. And we have to understand, is that a dip? And are we able to, and should we be able to come up out of that? And if so, how, and what the best way of doing so? Or is it actually time to quit? Now you might be going, that's interesting, Jason's telling us to quit. No, I'm not saying to quit, because we all hear the motivation and the inspiration from everyone about, resilience and persistence and motivation, the inspiration. We hear all of the athlete stories and team stories about, they persevered and all this. And we've got all these heartfelt, amazing stories about the person who was born with, one eye and no limbs and learnt to grow 6 limbs and run faster with this, and all of these amazing stories. And I'm not downplaying it. Sorry if I sounded cynical there. I'm not. I love that. I'm driven by that. I see it. I feel it. Loads of those stories bring a tear to my eye. They've been factors of motivation for myself. But the fact is this: there are a massive amount of business owners that are the best of the best, that have an amazing ability to know and pick whether it's actually a dip or whether they should actually quit and refocus their attention, their time, their money, their energy into another area, another niche, a different industry, a different business, a different opportunity. Maybe it's a creation innovation thing, or maybe it's just a sidestep. Let's not use the word pivot. Terrible word. Shouldn't have to pivot. If we have to feel like we pivot, then ultimately we should be quitting that part and moving to the next thing, right? And so that goes into that whole scenario. If business owners, or great business owners, can ultimately look at things objectively, and they have a knack of understanding and calling it for what it is, and they can see and they believe that it's not just a dip, but it is time to quit, and they quit early. And fundamentally, they quit a long time before everyone else does. And so how do they know that? What was the telltale signs? And so no one really knows. No one can really put their finger on it. And, everyone would like to think that they're just very smart. I did my due diligence and I saw this and I read the situation and blah, blah, blah. And we all have our reasons, our explanations. We all have an understanding as to why we made certain decisions. But ultimately, it does come down to a couple of key avenues. And that is that those that know to quit earlier do so quickly, they do so confidently, they sever the ties, they shut it down, they quit, they move on, they do whatever it is completely and wholeheartedly. They don't linger around just to, maybe see if something might come about, or, we try and justify it with excuses and reasons. We sort of, I guess, we break even and it means that I can do blah, blah, and we make a whole lot of BS around it. Fact of the matter is, they ultimately say, no, this is an energy-sucking adventure, or it is a time prohibitive venture, or they see it as a money pit that is not going to be what they need to be doing right now, and so they quit, and they quit early, and they move on. And so we need to take a lot of understanding of this as business owners. If we want to have more success, we need to know when to push certain things. We need to know when to actually move away and quit from things. Like Kenny Rogers in The Gambler always said, you got to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them. And to not move into a gambling cards analogy when we're talking roller coaster metaphors and dips, etc., it's a very similar situation. A good business owner and a great business owner makes decisions quickly, is always keen to have a quick review. You want to look in the rearview mirror and look at what's happening and where you've come from. You want to put yourself in the front of the roller coaster and look for the next uplift. Find out why things are happening, what's happening, and start to create that future of how to pull out of this dip. Identify the dip early and fundamentally, logistically and operationally make the changes quickly and swiftly to minimize the dip first and foremost, and then move forward. Secondly, if you don't do that, you're going to create a deeper dip. And ultimately, if you do need to walk away from something and quit, you've already missed that early opportunity. So we all need to be better at having a little bit more time to analyze where we're at. If things don't quite add up at the moment and there's a few little tweaks that we're not happy with, we need to be quick to look at why. We need to quick to understand what we need to do. We need to identify the dip early. We need to be able to make sure we ask the right questions, get the financials, get the timing side of things. We need to get the operational understandings and the challenges, and we need to make decisions quicker as to whether we can pull out of this dip, minimize it quickly, and move on and make it better profitability for money, time, the energy spent, etc. Or if it is the start of a dip and we know it's not a dip, then guess what? It's time to quit. Minimize the time, the energy, the money, and move on. And so much of this is about us acting quicker, being a little bit more analytical, not having to do big, long, intensive deep dives that waste our days and hours and times and months, but just being quicker to implement. Shorter, sharper, quick reviews, looking for the challenges, asking questions as to why that's lifted, why that's dropped, why. And the more we ask and the more we get involved in that analytical side, quickly, short, sharp, efficient, and effective, the sooner we can identify a dip, the way out of it, or the time when we need to quit. Let's act faster. Let's get more momentum. And it's always actions that drive that clarity moving forward. More actions gives you more clarity, and you too can be more successful like the best business owners that can identify a dip or know when to quit. I'll talk to you again very soon. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.